Okay, so we are in the second class of the Commvault training. So in the first class, like we have seen, how you can install the virtual machine, on the Azure environment, Azure cloud. And I have also shown you like how you can, software installing and how you can download the Commvault software right from your local computer, and then how you can copy onto the virtual machine inside the Azure cloud. So those things we have covered. So in this session, we'll see, the continuation. So we have deployed the virtual machine here, and we haven't installed the Commvault package. So we'll be doing that in the coming sessions. So the next part will be deploying the media agent virtual machine, right? We have to deploy one virtual machine so that we can install the media agent package. So we need another virtual machine. So this virtual machine can be, as I said before, the ComSer should be always Windows. I mean, anyhow, Commvault will support Linux operating system also, but most of the customers, more than 99%, they prefer Windows. So Linux customers are very rare. So for media agent, you can use the operating system. The VM operating system can be in Windows or Linux. So you can find the customers, a few of the customers using Windows and few using the Linux. So you can create any operating system for the media agent package, right? So let's see the demo video for installing the virtual machine, another virtual machine within the Azure cloud. So that virtual machine, I'll be using it as I'm going to install the media agent, right? So let's see the demo. Hey, hi, welcome back. Uh, just a second. Okay, so we are in the portal.azure.com. So in the first session, we have installed the ComSer, one virtual machine. We named that virtual machine as in ComSer. So in this session, we are going to install the another virtual machine for the media agent. So go to the create section and Azure virtual machine, and you have to again select the resource group. So you have to use the same resource group that you selected earlier, right? For ComServe virtual machine, you selected one resource group. So use the same one and give the name the media agent, right? That is for user-friendly name. So you should be able to identify that machine with the role it has. So I given the same name, media agent. Now image, as I said, I can use Windows or Linux. So I'm selecting the Windows server and the size. Yeah. So minimum you need to have an two vCPUs, and you can go for 8 GB RAM. So the media agent has different operations it's going to perform. We'll see in the future. So two vCPUs should be fine. One thing, let me pause the video. Someone is joining. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and then we have to give the credentials, right? You need to create the credentials for logging into that Windows virtual machine, and password you have to create on your own, and port 3389 should be open, which is an RTP port. If you click on next, so you can see that Azure is giving you 127 GB disk, so go with the default. And networking option we see here. So in the virtual network, if you drop down, you have to select the ComServe VNet, the same virtual network as you hosted the earlier, the ComServe virtual machine. You need to select the same virtual network and same subnet, right? You need to remember that. Use the same subnet and same virtual network, and the remaining option should be default. And go for next options. Yeah, go with the default options. So follow the wizard, and then you have to create it. So now you need to see that this particular virtual machine, it will incur 16 Indian rupees, so sorry, 20 Indian rupees per hour. So you should be very careful. If you are not using this virtual machine, always stop that virtual machine, right? So you can create that. So I would advise, so use a trial version. So if you created a trial subscription with Azure, so it's going to give you the $200 credit. So you can use in that credit. So now the deployment is completed. If I go to the resources, now you have if you scroll down, you can see that. So you got an public IP assigned, right, for that particular virtual machine. So that is a generic warning. You can ignore it. And you also have a private IP address, right? So you need to verify that what is the private IP address and what is the public IP address. You don't have to do anything, just ensure that those IPs are assigned. And I told you one more thing, you have to make that private IP address then static. To do that, for doing that, you have to go to that networking setting and IP configuration. Yeah, select that IP config one. So here, change that to static, right? So when you change that to static, what actually it means is that even after reboot, the IP address will remain same. But when you use dynamic, the IP address will change. But we want it static. So static means even after reboot, the IP address, the private IP address will remain the same address. So we need that configuration, static IP for Commvault. So okay, now it is successful. So next step, we need to connect to that media agent. So how you connect? Go to that virtual machine, or you can also search for virtual machine and click on the media agent. And now there is a connect option, right? So download that RDP file, and yeah, the CV admin user. You can see that it is connecting through public IP. 4.247 is the public IP. So we are connecting to this virtual machine from your workstation or laptop. Yeah. Say okay. Say yes. Till now we haven't started the Commvault backup product yet, right? We are only building the infra. We are developing the infra, right? So usually in companies, few company, if it is a small company, so you have to do most of the stuff. Like even you have to deploy the virtual machine in the cloud also. So that's why I'm showing you. So all these things. Otherwise, I would have started right away for explaining about demonstrating about the Commvault. But because you should know how you develop the infra also. So we are building the virtual machines from the scratch on the Azure cloud. Okay, now we are connected to the media agent. Okay, you can say yes for that. Okay, so another prerequisite for this lab, which I said is go to the search for the firewall and window. So that will open the Windows security window. So just make that firewall off. So this is only for our lab purpose, but in real time in your company environment, don't disable the firewall, right? So for our lab demonstration to make everything easier, I am disabling the firewall. But in real time, you should not be disabling the firewall, right? Okay, search for the command prompt and then find out the IP address. IP config is a command for finding the IP address. So you can see that. So inside the virtual machine, it will always show you the private IP. It will not show you the public IP, right? Okay. Now try to ping the. Okay, this is your MediaAgent private IP 10.0.0.5, and try to ping the so another virtual machine that you deployed in the Azure. So that is your Comser IP. Comser IP is 10.0.0.4. So now you can see that it is replying. So when you ping that and you see that reply successful, which means that so there is a network connectivity. So there is no issue with the network connectivity. Everything is good. So the two machines can communicate among themselves through a network. So you need to ensure that this media agent is able to reach the other Comser IP, right? So this testing you have to do before you deploy anything. Okay, so this completes us, setting up the virtual machine for the media agent. And the next is, let's see how we can deploy another virtual machine for Linux client. Okay, before we go into that, I would like to take you to the again the slide. So we have still what we are doing, we are building the physical architecture. So we haven't installed the Commvault software yet. What we did first in the first session, we have created one virtual machine in the Azure cloud and named it as an ComServe. So today's session we have created another virtual machine which is of type Windows, and we name that as an media agent. And now we are building we need another virtual machine for creating the clients, right? Client machines. So as I said, the client machines can be you know so it need not be only a single machine. You can have a multiple clients, right, in the company environment. So few customers, small size customer company might be having around 100 200 like that, but a large size environment can have more than thousands of clients, right? So we'll demonstrate, we'll take the two clients in the Azure cloud, one for the Windows and another for Linux. So again, for client package, you need to have a virtual machine. So let's see how we deploy the virtual machine again for Azure. But this time I'm deploying the Linux virtual machine, right? So let's see the lab demo for that. Okay, now again we are on the portal.azure.com and virtual machines. You have to go to the virtual machines section. So now we have already deployed two virtual machines, one for ComSer, another media agent. And create Azure virtual machine. Again the same steps. So every time the steps will repeat same, right? The same procedure for deploying the virtual machine. Now again, the subscription is pay as you go, but as a student, I would, because I have already used the trial version, I have upgraded my subscription. But if you are creating for the first time, you can use the trial version. And resource group, use the same resource group that you create that you are using earlier for other machines. and virtual machine name. So it should be user friendly name. You can use any name. So it should be user friendly, right? Region, the same region you select, South India. And image. Now image, I'm selecting the Linux version, which is Ubuntu server. Ubuntu is a Linux flavor. And size. So because it is a client, I can use some smaller resource virtual machine. So I can go for 2 vCPU, 8 GB RAM. So if you search here, these are all the different types of, you can provision and size of virtual machine. You can select any one of them, but you should also remember the cost per, how much cost it is going to incur per hour. So in Azure, everything is, billed as per the hour, per hour basis. So because you are in, if you are creating an Azure account for the first time, as I mentioned, Azure will give you trial version for and $200. So you can spend $200 on the, so within 1 month. So it is for free of cost. So it will not bill you anything. So I will make another video how to create an Azure subscription. So don't worry about that. Okay, now you select authentication type. Again, select the password. So when you select password, it is asking the username. So create the same. I'm giving this username same every time, but in the company environment, it might not be the same, right? So the username might be different. So since it is a lab environment, to keep the consistency, we are selecting the username same, and also give your own password. And you can see that for Linux machine, port 22 need to be open. Okay, you can see that Azure has provisioned. Azure is giving 30 GB for OS disk. So OS disk is nothing but operating system disk. So if I drop down, it's showing the all the different sizes. So now I selected 64 GB because 30 GB is not sufficient. So I'll select it 64 GB. So go for the networking. You need to remember that these are not hard coded, the values. So this is only for a demonstration how what will be the options in the cloud, like that. Yeah, so don't get so the conclusion that okay, so we need to give every time same. So it might not be the same, right? So these are the generic options that we have to provide while you create an virtual machine. And the remaining options, go with the default and review and create. You can see that so how much Azure is going to bill us if we deploy that virtual machine. It's going to cost you 5 rupees per hour, right? If you're not using using the virtual machine, you should always stop the virtual machine. Okay, usually the deployment time will be around 5 minutes because this video is recorded within pass and then resume, like that. So that's why you're saying that the VM get created instantaneously. So now you can see that private IP address assigned. So 10006. So next step is again same. So go to the network settings and make that private IP address as a static. Right now it is showing dynamic. You can see the dynamic here. You have to change that to static. So we got an private IP address. So again, we need to connect to that Linux client. Okay, if you go to the Linux client, connect option, now see that the connection method for Linux is different. For Windows, it is an RDP, remote desktop, but for Linux, it is an SSH, right? Or you need an putty session. So for Linux, the connection method is not through RDP. So for Linux, you have to connect through putty. You can see that if I search on my computer putty, so and you have to, okay, if your computer doesn't have a putty session, go to the Google, search for putty, download the first link. If you open, yeah, there it is. So it is free of cost. You don't have to purchase it like that. So once you install, you get this putty window. Okay. So now it is asking the IP address. You have to give the public IP address of the Linux client. For Linux, the connection method is through putty or SSH. So here we are doing the through putty, right? Okay. For Windows, it is an RDP, remote desktop. Okay. Provide the login details, credentials like CVadmin, and also provide the password that you created. I mean, while you are creating the virtual machine, you are giving the password. Okay. To elevate to the root shell, sudo, we have to give the sudo. Okay. Who am I is the command to see what is the user that is connected. CVadmin. To elevate to the root, sudo su space hyphen. These commands you have to remember. So now you see that root. For in Linux, the administrator, just like in Windows, you have an administrator account. In Linux, you have a root account. Root is a super user account, right? Just like an admin in Windows, in Linux, you have a root account or root user. Okay. So you see that the private IP address inside the virtual machine and private IP address which is on the console is same, right? Okay, also you have to verify whether you are able to connect to other virtual machines like Comsor IP address is 10.0.0.4. So try to ping it. Okay, if you want to verify that, go to that again virtual machine, Comsor, and see that. So that's the IP address of the Comsor. So why I'm doing the ping test? I'm doing the ping test to verify if this machine is able to communicate with the other virtual machines, right? You can see that reply. When you get a 64 byte reply like that, then the machine is communicating with the other machine. So they are in the network. So you need to ensure that these machines are connected before you even install the packages, Commvault packages. So this is the IP of the media agent. Okay, they are connecting. When you are getting a reply, it means that your connection is good, right? So why till now what we are doing all these things we are doing. So what we are trying to do here is we are setting up the infra. So first we are setting up the virtual machines before even you install the Commvault package. Okay, this completes the lab. Okay, so if you see that, so we have deployed the virtual machine for Comsor, deployed the virtual machine for MediaAgent, deployed the virtual machine for Linux client. Likewise, we'll deploying the another virtual machine for Windows client. As I said, the clients can be multiple, not only a single. In an organization, you can have a multiple clients. So client is nothing but the server whose data need to be backed up, right? So client machines can be anything. Likewise, media agents you can have more than one also. So we'll see that in the coming classes. So right now I have deployed one Linux client. Similarly, we'll see Windows client. Okay. So again, go to that portal.azure.com. Yeah, again the same process. Subscription should be same, resource group should be the same, and virtual machine name, user friendly name. So I'm giving the Windows client, and region, the same region that you selected earlier, like South India, and image, because it is a Windows client, I'm selecting the Windows operating system. So earlier it was 20, this time I selected 2019. So anything should be fine. And size, yeah, 2 vCPUs, 4 GB. So that should be okay. So username, password. So password, you can select your own password. Re-enter the password. Yeah, for Windows the port is 3389. That's an RDP port. So 127 GB disk should be fine. Networking. So ensure that the same virtual network that was created earlier is selected. ComServe VNet, and subnet is the same. It should be the same subnet as the other virtual machines. So earlier it was 10.00. The same subnet you have to select in the drop down. If it is different, you select the same thing. Otherwise, you can keep default. Remaining options should be fine. Go for default. Yeah. So before it, before we deploy, it shows the cost of that virtual machine. So it cost you around 6 rupees per hour. So created, and the deployment is in progress. Usually it take 5 minutes for deployment because this was pre-recorded. So I have paused and resumed. And now if you go to that resources, it will redirect to that virtual machine. Again the same thing, verify what is the IP address, private IP address, public IP address, right? And then if you go to the networking section, what is the next step? The prerequisite is you have to ensure that the IP address is static. By default, the IP address will be dynamic, but you have to make it static. So for that, you have to click on the network interface at the top, and then you have an IP config one, name of the IP. Yeah, static. Select the static and click on save. Okay, now you have a Windows client, and connect to that client. Because it's in Windows virtual machine, you are getting an RDP file, right? For Linux, it is SSH, or SSH is nothing but a secure shell, or we connect through putty session. For Windows, we connect through RDP, remote desktop. Okay, now we are connected to the virtual machine. Okay, that pop-up, so anything should be fine, yes or no, you can give anything, so it doesn't matter. So by default, whenever you install an uh, so the server manager page will open, you can minimize that. Okay, now search for the firewall. So as I said, like for setting up the virtual machine, after setting up the virtual machine, there are two more steps you have to do. One is make the IP address as static, and second thing is disable the firewall so that it won't block the network. So communication among the virtual machines. So firewall is on. So click on that domain network, make it off. So there are three networks. One is the domain, private network, public network. So disable all the firewall. This is only for the lab purpose, but in for real time, you should not be disabling any firewall. So that's an RDP window. So usually I'm trying to fit onto that screen. And next step, search the command prompt. So and type ipconfig. To find the IP address, the command is ipconfig in the Windows, right? So 10.0.0.7 is the IP address. So that's a private IP address. As I said, like inside the virtual machine, you'll have a private IP address only. Again, so if you want to ping the other machine IP, you need to first identify the IP. For ComSer, the IP is 10.0.0.4. Again, go to that the newly deployed virtual machine and try to ping it. So when you are getting a reply, if you ping it and you get a reply, which means that the virtual machines are getting connected. They are in the network. So virtual machines can communicate with each other. The meaning of the ping test is if you get the ping test successful, which means that the machines can communicate among themselves. So reply we are getting when you are getting reply. So these machines are in network or they can communicate. So ensure that so the IP is able to communicate with the remaining comms, the infra machines like Comser and MediaAgent. Yeah, so it is connecting. So the very important thing after you have done with the lab, you have to select all and stop it. See that there is a stop option. So if you don't stop, what will happen? So Azure is going to bill you continuously. Like for example, if you forget to stop and then in the night you sleep and then the early morning when you come and see if the machines are running, so your bill will increase because these machines are running. So if you stop the virtual machines, Azure is not going to bill you for the virtual machine. Okay, that completes this one. So today mostly the lab setup. So today we'll see there is another thing which is related to. So one of the student has asked about. So whatever till now we are showing is like on the Azure cloud. Like he's asking, can we set up a lab environment in the laptop? Like for example, if I have a laptop, so I don't want to go deploy the lab setup in Azure cloud. So can I deploy on my personal computer or personal laptop? Yes, we can do that. So now let's see how you can set up the lab on your personal computer. So for that, what you need? You need a software called VMware Workstation. So this software is provided by the VMware and it is of free of cost. So I mean you don't need any license for deploying the VMware. So we'll show you how you can see that VMware Workstation Pro download. So it is redirecting to access.broadcom.com, right? So Broadcom is the company who purchased the VMware. So that's why it is redirecting you. So now here you need to log in here to download it. Further, first, if you don't have a login access, you have to register. So register, you can register through your Gmail account. You doesn't have to provide you any company account. You can register through Gmail also. So let's see how you can install the VMware workstation. So let's see the demo. Okay, so I have already downloaded the, 1 second, let me pass this.